Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to the second week of our Elk Grove Library Summer Technology programs, which we're offering in this summer of 2021. Although it's in a virtual format, we're still bringing to you guys a bunch of technology-related content from computer programming to some advanced topics as well. Today is the second week of a program which we started off last week called Introduction to Programming, where we last week covered about this idea of computer science. What is it all about? And this week we'll be further diving into that topic and sort of making our transition into typing out code. Last week was more of a week where we spent free roaming the website of Black Code, learning about some fundamentals, and this week we'll be learning more about some terms and forming a foundation for the upcoming weeks as we start to hopefully make a project in our final week. As always, thank you guys for coming out here today. We got a bunch of new people and a good crowd, which is always great to see. And it was great meeting the new faces and new people we had today. And for those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Rayaan, Siddiqi, guys. I'm a senior who recently graduated from James B. Cohen High School here in the Schaumburg town area. This upcoming fall, I will be going to the University of Illinois Chicago, majoring in computer science. And a couple fun facts about me is that I'm a published author. My book called The Switch Up, it's about a realistic fiction book about a student's journey throughout the world of high school, is available at the Elk Grove Library along with a couple of other libraries throughout the local area as well, if you like to check it out. I know a bunch of people here have already read it, and I've heard some great things, so it's favorite book ever. Thank you, Maha. I know a lot of people here. Chase checked it out. Avanish, he's not here today, but was also an avid fan, so definitely be sure to check that out. And the side, I like to run a sports talk show with some of my friends as well. So likewise, it was great meeting you all. So now let's move on towards what we're going to be doing. As for those of us who are new, we like to make sure that we have a set idea of what we'll be accomplishing that day so that we have a clear idea of the things we got to do. Today's June 15th, so today we're going to recap what we started off with last week, talk about a cool fact of the day relating to technology, start learning about the new terms which will be necessary in this idea of computer programming in Python, and then moving to applying some code. Last week we were learning about block code, and this week, due to how short this program is in 4 weeks, we're going to be transitioning a bit faster. But don't worry, if you want more resources, I'll be talking about where you guys can get access to those as well. So first things first, let's move on towards Andrew talking about your sister's going to USC Medicine. Oh, that's awesome. Maybe I'll meet her, Andrew. So as we're moving on, a quick recap of what we'll be offering at the Elk Grove Library this summer as well. Not only do we have Introduction to Programming, where we're learning about Python and programming fundamentals. Yesterday, we also had our one-time special of Gaming Hour, where we talked about how Among Us was made, looked at the code behind it, and also got to play a game. Next month, although we do have Introduction to Web Development scheduled, that might be changing and moving towards the fall. We'll provide you guys an update coming soon on that. Also, we have Hack Club coming up in 2 weeks, where we're going to be talking about machine learning and how AI plays a pretty big role in our lives. And then we got iMovie video editing, where we will be learning about how to edit some videos, which we can download. Thank you, Rob. Alrighty, and as a quick reminder, here are some of the dates of our programs we got going on. We got, including today, 3 more sessions of Introduction to Programming. Like I said, web development may be moved, so stay tuned for that. Gaming Hour, just had it yesterday. Hack Club, June 28th, and iMovie might be moving to June 21st. So all these updates, which are super important, are also communicated through our Google Classroom. By this point, I expect all of us to have joined that, but if you have not, the code is right there, and I will be dropping the link to join there as well. Make sure to join that, guys. That's where I handle all of our communication and all of our resources, including video links, our YouTube video links, a recap of what we accomplished that week. All of that is posted there. So here is the link in the chat. All you need is a Google account, a parent or guardians, or your own, works out. So be sure to join that as soon as possible because that is pretty crucial. All right. And like I was saying earlier, more resources, which I have created over the past, is if you want to learn more about computer programming, since 4 weeks is definitely not enough to cover everything, which we'll be doing, since it will be a bit more going faster. There's been 6-month programs, which I've led over the past years. If you guys want to check those out, the link is also available in our Google Classroom with more resources dedicated towards learning about specific things related to computer programming. But do not worry, if you are new, we will be covering those new fundamentals today as well. So just overall, the main idea is Google Classroom has a bunch of great things. Be sure to join that so you have access to all that information. Alrighty, so let's get started off with a recap of what we accomplished last week. Last week we had our introductions. We signed up on Google Classroom and we started to learn about what coding is. We had a good discussion about what computer science is, the large role it plays in our everyday lives. Last week we had some ideas, people talking about how Google, how often we use Google on an everyday basis, right? Google is made with this idea of technology, right? And computer programming. We talked about apps on our phones, websites we visit. All of that is possible because of programming, which we are learning more about as well. Moreover, we introduced a block coding website where we were able to drag and drop blocks, see how we have logic pieces which we can connect in order to make our own programs. And today, we'll be taking a step up towards actually typing out some basic lines of code in order to build up our toolbox even further. From last week, does anybody have any questions, thoughts, or ideas they want to share about computer science? Or if you were not here last week, is there any thoughts you have about what is technology? Okay, people saying, getting a message that works with our apps and phones. Yep, that's 100% true. It's something which is surrounding us every day. The Zoom app, which we're using right now, is made possible because of computer science. But also, let's take a minute to look at a cool fact of the day of how what we're learning about has actually had a pretty near impact. And that is because the programming language of Python last year, artificial intelligence with computer programming knew about the coronavirus pandemic before anybody else in the world did. Now, that's pretty interesting because last year, if you think about it, way back in, this is talking about 2019, in December, before the word even spread, before the government, the US government, or the CDC had even issued a statement, because of Python, computer programming and AI knew about the COVID-19 virus before anybody else. Now, you might be asking, wait, how is that even possible? How did a computer know about something so big before anyone here else did? Well, it's because something which we'll be learning more about at Hack Club on June 25th, but it's with this idea of machine learning. Python allowed us to track and see certain airline data, which was able to tip us off on where are less flights going, along with social media activity. And because of that, we were able to see that there was something incorrect going on or something weird going on in the China-related area. And because of that, we were able to further investigate and find out that there's a virus being spread there. Now, that's just a very basic idea, but we're going to be diving deeper into how this was made possible on Hack Club on June 25th. So be sure to sign up for that and come out there as well. Chasing is a fun fact. Honey can never go bad. It can never rot or become inedible. Chase have some experience with that, I'm assuming? No? Well, you read it. All right. Honey does not expire. Ratchet, yep. Good to know. Alrighty. Well, for today, the only food that does not expire, honey. All right. Well, we might have to incorporate some honey into this as well. Well, for today then, guys, let's start moving towards our first topic related to coding. And with this idea of Python, that being functions. Now, we're going to start off by learning about two important terms today and another two important terms next week as we make our way towards making a cool project in the fourth week of this Introduction to Programming course. And today we're going to start off with some fundamental terms which you should know about. That first one being functions. Now, functions are a placeholder for all of our code, which we will need in order to make our program. Now, whenever I think about functions, I like to think about an analogy or any computer programming term. How does it relate to actual life? That analogy is going to be towards a house. Just like a house holds bedrooms, bathrooms, holds furniture, a function in computer programming holds all of our code. And towards the right, we can see how we are able to write that piece of code. It's simply, we had to write a three-letter word called def, which is a shorthand method for saying define. And then the name of our function could be whatever we would like. It could be hello, it could be hi, opening close parentheses, and then inside we will have all of our code. Now, we will be writing our own functions later on today as well, so do not worry if you don't understand. But the main thing is that you understand what their purpose is. The first term which we're learning about, once again, is a function holding all of our code. Super important. It's like a house. All right, and then moving on towards the second topic, which we'll be coding today and learning more about, that being variables. Now, variables are responsible for holding all of our data. So in a sense, you have functions, right, which act as the house. Variables are like the boxes which hold items in your house. And variables allow us to hold data. So that data can be people's names. It could be numbers. You know, we have so many different names. We have many different combinations of numbers. Storing all of that information is pretty crucial. And the way we store these variables is inside of functions. So if we imagine a flow, right, we have functions at the very top. And then inside of functions, we will have all of our code. And in that code, we could have variables, which we will be writing out today as well. So stay tuned for that later on. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, which they want to share about functions or variables? So once again, to reiterate, functions, holding all of our code, we'll see an example of that in real life as well. And then variables responsible for holding specific pieces of data like names and numbers. All right, so as those two new terms are setting into your minds, I'm going to be talking about what we can do with variables. It's pretty cool because variables are a super important part of computer programming and one of the most fundamental parts because they hold so much different pieces of data. We can use them to do a bunch of cool things. And it's similar to if we want to hold data, which represents distance we walked, if we want to perform some calculations, doing math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you name it, we can hold all of those results in variables and also being able to send information if we want to store information in a database, if we want to hold information in our computer. All of that is made possible with variables. And a real life example is if you've ever used a spreadsheet, every box in a spreadsheet is sort of like a variable because it holds specific information. If you think about, let's get a count right here. How many of us have used Instagram or Snapchat? Give a simple thumbs up. No, but that's not possible. If you've used any social media app right here, give me a thumbs up or. All right, yeah. So a bunch of people, all of us, I'm assuming, some people are just too shy to say, we've all used social media apps, right? And when we have an account, what are some things usually associated with our account? So say I have an Instagram account, right? What are some things which are associated with my account? There's like in my email. What else is there? A password, Maria, yep. Roger saying a phone number, definitely. There's also a username, which I have, right? So all these things which we're talking about, all of these are represented with variables. A variable holds my phone number. A different variable holds my password. And then a different variable holds my username. All of these are needed so that we can see information related to my account. So if I were to go on Instagram right now, go to my account tab, all the information will be loaded up because it's being stored in a variable. So it goes to show you how the stuff which we're talking about today is a pretty near impact, and we use it on an everyday basis. If you go on, Google.com, if you have a Google account, looking at your name, all those fields which have information related to you, like your name, your first name, last name, all that information is stored in variables. And we'll be taking a look later on today how we can create our own variables and type out information as well. So hopefully that idea is starting to set in with the things which we can do with variables. And now we're going to be transitioning and looking at a similar idea of, we've talked about how variables allow us to hold different types of information. But when we're communicating with the computer, it's super important that we're specific to the computer and telling them, hey, we want a variable which is going to hold this number, or hey, we want a variable which is going to hold this word or this name. We have to make sure that we have a clear distinction. And that's the idea with this next activity, which we're going to do and try to do over a virtual format of being specific to computers. What we're going to do is go into separate breakout rooms. There are going to be 2 people in each breakout room. One person is going to be responsible for going online, finding an image of anything. The other person, if you have a piece of paper and a pencil nearby, get that in your hand. And the person who has pulled up the image is going to tell the other person how to draw that image without giving it away. And then we'll take 5 minutes to see your experience of how you guys were able to draw out the image. So say me and Rob are working together from the Elk Grove Library. So if I were to pull up an image of a basketball, I would tell Rob, okay, draw a circle, then draw lines throughout that circle to sort of draw a basketball, right? And then Rob would be responsible for drawing that image to the best ability he can. So be sure to not fully give away the image if you're the person looking up the drawing. And yeah, I'll be making the breakout rooms as you go in. Decide who's going to look up the image and who's going to be the person responsible for drawing that. And we'll take 5 minutes for this activity and see how well you guys do. Anybody have any questions? All right, so I will be stopping in your breakout rooms as well if you guys have any questions as we go along. So remember, 2 people are going to be in each breakout room. 1 person decide who's going to be the one looking up the image, and the other person who will be drawing it out actually. All right, so breakout rooms will be coming out here soon. Alrighty, here we go. The rooms are open, guys, so be sure to join.
Same here, although I probably could have used some work.
All right. So how was the instructions your partner gave? Were they specific?
Mine was pretty good with doing specific ones, but it wasn't too specific.
Okay. Looks like Maha and Iman had a good time as well. Anybody else have any thoughts? Was it difficult when your partner didn't tell you where to draw something or how to draw it?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult.
Yeah, I would agree with that just because then if you didn't understand, you would have to ask a lot of questions to be able to understand like how to draw it.
Definitely. All right. So how was the final products, what you guys made? Were they similar, close to what your partner had looked up?
Not really.
Majority of the time, yes.
All right, great. So you might be asking then, what was the purpose of us going and drawing besides having some fun? Well, it was because we have to realize that when we're talking to a computer, and when I'm talking with you guys, I can say something and you guys can get the message. But when we're talking to a computer, you got to be super specific in what you're communicating. You tell the computer every single thing very specifically so that the computer knows what you want it to do. So if I want to write a variable or write a function, we have to carefully write whatever we want the computer to do correctly. And that also goes with this idea of variables. If we want to create a variable which is going to hold a number, we have to write a variable which holds a number and nothing else. So it's that idea of something which is going to be important over these next couple of weeks as well, is being specific to a computer is super important. So the computer knows exactly what it needs to do, and whatever we have in our minds matches up with whatever the computer runs as well. So now let's see this idea of being specific to a computer actually being played out on our coding website, which we'll be going off to. I will be dropping the link so you guys can hop on the website as well in the chat, and I hope to meet you guys there. As you guys are getting on, I'm going to explain the basic format of this website, guys, which we'll be using over the next 2 to 3 weeks. This left area is going to be where we will be writing all of our code. And this right area, called the console, is where we will see the output, aka the result of all of our code. When we hit the run button, our code will run. Hopefully there are going to be not that many errors, and then we will be able to go through. Additionally, guys, this code link will be posted on the Google Classroom at the end of today's class, so you can access it as well. Andrew cannot get in. Let me try resharing the link. And if you guys are at BS, yo, what's up?
It looks like you have to sign in if you want to get in.
Okay, so if you look at a Google account, you can sign in with, or you can sign up. That's totally fine.
Thanks.
Alrighty, so as we're getting in, guys, today, I had the money. Well, guys, we're going to get started off by talking about the two concepts which we covered today. Anybody remember what those are? Two terms we learned today?
I forgot.
Functions and variables, I think.
Exactly, Maria. We have variables and functions. So first thing what we'll do is create and look at how we can make some variables. Arian saying functions and variables as well, 100%. So variables, like we said, are pretty simple to make. All we need to do is first think of a variable name. So say we want a variable to hold my name. I can call and say my name is going to be equal to, so the name of my variable, and then this equal sign is super important because it's telling the computer, hey, this is a variable which will hold something. And we're going to set the variable equal to my name, which is Rayaan. And notice how I have quotation marks around the variable. That is because this is a word, right? It's a name. So since it's a string, we have to put quotation marks around it. Now let's create another variable. Say I want to make a variable which is going to hold my age. How would I go? Anybody have an idea what would I do? You can also type on the website if you'd like. So instead of putting my name, yep, Andrew, you can put your name. I would do a new variable. It could be whatever I want to call it. I could say my age is equal to. So now, when I'm setting a value equal to my age, would my age be in quotation marks? Or would it just be a number? Since it's a number, what would we do? Any ideas? So if we put our name, right, if I put my name in quotation marks, since it's a word, is my age a word? Does it need quotation marks? Well, yep, so since my age is a number, we do not need quotation marks because it's a number, right? It isn't a word. So since my name is a word, we put quotation marks around it. But since my age is not a word, it's a number, right? It's an integer. We are just able to put it without any quotation marks. Alrighty, and as we're going along, guys, you guys are more than welcome to open up your own Replit as well. If you go to replit.com, you can follow along if you do not want to see just me code. If you want to code along there as well, the link for that is in the chat as well. All right, so now I've created two different variables. I got a variable which is going to hold my name, and then a separate variable which is holding my age of 17 years old. Notice how it's all we have to do once again is the name of whatever we want our variable to be called, the equal sign, and then setting it equal to whatever value we want our variable to hold. Now what I can do is see the value of my variable. I can print it out. So if I type print, I can print out my name, and I can also then print out my age. Anybody have any guesses? When I hit the run button, what will we see in the right area in the output box?
It'll print your name and your age.
Exactly, yep. So if I go ahead and hit run now, oh, yep, so it's just the word print and then open and close parentheses. There we go. Like you said, Maria, we see my name and then my age being printed out. Now, this also applies, we can add some, we can make this look better. So I can say my name is, in quotation marks. And then we can actually even add our variable. So I can say my name is, and then my name. Like that. We can also do the same thing with my age is, and print out my age and hit run. There we go. Now we're going to do one last quick activity with you guys actually being able to type this out on your own as well. But before we do, I want to show you guys how functions work as well. Now, who can remind me, what are functions once again? We talked about how we can compare them, right? They're like, what do they allow us to do? Variables hold data, functions hold so remember, functions hold all of our code. They're like the house, right? And variables are like a box which holds specific data. So now if I want to make a function which is going to hold all of this code we have written, we have to create a function. So to do that, we do def to define, and then I can say whatever the name of my function is. So first function, open and close parentheses, we add a colon, and then we have to make sure that all of this code is inside of my function. We have to make sure that we are tabbing correctly so that all this code is going to fit inside of this function. And this function is now going to be responsible for function is holding all of our code. And whenever I'm writing like this in a gray text, guys, that's a comment which I'm making, which tells us what specific code does. Arian, yep, so def means define. It defines our function name. So whenever you want to create a function, you always do def, and then whatever you want to call your function, followed by open and close parentheses, and then a colon. Now, if I hit run, you'll notice that nothing is being printed out because we're missing a crucial step. You might be asking, why do we need to put print of def before typing? So we put def before our function name always because we're defining a function. So that's the what we have to type out to make a function. So def, the function name, and then whatever you want to call our function. Now, if I'm running run, we're getting no errors, but our code isn't running. Anybody know why that might be happening? Chase and TechVice, we've had this problem happening many times, right? When we create a function and it doesn't run. Do you remember why we had that problem, Chase? Sorry, it doesn't say print. Well, it does say print, but the main thing is that although we have our function, we have to call our function for the code inside of it to run. So what we do is go outside of the function, write whatever the function's name is, along with some open and close parentheses, like this. And now this is going to be, we are calling our function. This makes sure that all of the code inside the function will now run. That's totally fine. Yep, we're all learning together. Oh, that's all right, Chase. So remember, we create our function with def and then whatever function name is. It's responsible for holding all of our code. In this function, we have our variable names, my name, and then my age variable, and we're printing out my age and name. And lastly, we have to call our function so that the code inside of it can actually run. Yes, all the links, guys, towards the code will be in the Google Classroom posted after class ends. So do not worry if you aren't able to catch up or miss something. And now, if I hit run, we do see the code inside of our function running. It's printing out my name and my age. Alrighty, so now we're going to take the next 5 minutes for you guys to actually be able to write your own function and variable as well. So what we're going to do is, if you were able to go on towards the link, right? So I guess what we'll do is next week, we'll do this for next week. If you guys want to make an account on this Replit website, I will link that in the Google Classroom. So that next week we can start, you guys can write your own pieces of code as well. And I guess what we could do is create some comments right here. So breakout room number 1, type their code below that, breakout room 2 below that, breakout 3, breakout 4, breakout 5, breakout 6, and then breakout room 7. So if you and your partner want to team up and write whatever code you want below that in your area. So if I'm breakout room 1, I would write only right here. What I want you guys to do is write a function and then your name and print it out. So just a function, your name, and print that out. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
All right, so we'll go to breakout room for just 5 minutes and then we'll be wrapping it up. So here we go.
You're muted.
Thank you, Andrew. So it's great to see that all of you guys have been able to create all of your functions and variable names. You guys got your def, and then whatever you want to call your function, opening close parentheses, and the colon. Now, one thing which I was noticing is that, remember guys, whenever we're coding in a function, make sure that you're tabbed in. So all of your code is inside of that function, like that. And everybody did a great job. We got our variable names holding a name. So we use quotation marks if it's a word, and then an age if it's a number or something of that sort, and printing it out as well. Anybody have any questions? This is all looking great. We got name, and then we're printing out our name and age. That's great to see. Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, then that takes us till the end for the second week of our Introduction to Programming course with the Elk Grove Libraries Tech Program Summer. Hopefully, you guys had a good time, learned something cool and new, had a good time with your activities and your partners as well. We'll be doing more of these as we go into next week, learning about a new topic called conditionals. And then we are all building up our skills for the fourth week where we will actually make a project. So stay tuned for that. Once again, thank you guys for coming out. Be sure to sign up for our other programs.
Thank you.
As well. I'll catch you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you for this class.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.